Good afternoon, class. As we go with our discussion and our term 3 working, we are in week 2. We want to talk about agriculture. And without wasting any time, I have got some nice notes that I have prepared again, which we are going to refer to right now. What is agriculture, the essence of agriculture, the role of agriculture, contribution of agriculture in South African economy, and all these things. So, what is agriculture? Is the science, art, and practice of cultivating the soil. We are saying is the science. It is an art and the practice of cultivating the soil, growing crops, raising livestock. All these can all mean agriculture. It encompasses the entire process of producing food. I'm sure you know that for us to have food, there must be farming, there must be cultivation of soil, there must be raising of livestock. Every food that we have, it actually comes from agriculture. So it actually involves the entire process of producing food. Producing food, producing fiber and other materials derived from plants and animals. So if you can look at it, you understand that agriculture actually it forms or it is a central point or it's a central activity and industry that sustains human life. We totally depend on agriculture. Like we are saying, other materials that we derive from plants and animals, these animals and plants are produced because of agriculture. So basically, agriculture is the foundation of human civilization. Understanding and putting proper science and putting proper conscience into production, into proper management of soils, into raising of livestock, all that and providing the sustenance and the resources necessary for survival and societal development. Societal development is basically based or is basically centered on agriculture. We talk about the standards of living of people, the health of a society, the lifestyle of people is because of food. Food all basically comes from agriculture. So agriculture, it is actually it actually formed the foundation of human civilization and sustenance, providing the sustenance and the resources necessary for what? For survival and societal development. I'm sure you know if there is no food, there will be war. If there is no food, there will be always conflict. If there is no food, there is no production because people cannot work when they are hungry. So what we are saying is agriculture actually serves the following. It serves in cultivating the soil, growing the crops, raising livestock, providing food, and materials and other products that we can say. So what we are saying is this is all about agriculture class and other products. So what we are saying is we want to look at agriculture also as a key role in civilization. How does agriculture work and facilitate civilization? It is very central in civilization. Uh, it was instrumental in the development of settled society and the rise of cities by providing staple food that allowed for specialization of labor and the development of complex social structures. The development of settled societies and also the rising of and the rise of cities, it is because of stable food supply. Food supply became the foundation of societies to be what? To be settled. It actually promoted societies to be what? To be living in one place. I'm sure you remember if you look back, we understand that people were hunters and gatherers. People were moving from place to place. There was a nomadic type of life that the ancient groups of people practiced and lived. So in that regard, what we need to understand is that agriculture remained instrumental in the development and in the development of societies, in the development of cities. It also allowed specialization of labor and development of complex social structures, as we have got so many institutions and organizations that we can talk about, which are also interlinked and actually developing as a result of the dependence on dependence on agriculture. I want us to look at contribution of agriculture to South African economy. The contribution of South Africa to South African economy. What's the contribution is our second bullet point. So agriculture contributes significantly to GDP. I've been talking about the gross domestic product, employment and export. Uh, we do have the total production that the country is having. Remember, we said we are a developing state. South Africa is at a phase of developing. It's not yet as a developed economy. So what we are saying is employment is created in agriculture because it also provides it takes as many people as possible because it's a primary industry. We also talk about the provision that comes from agriculture to export markets. So that is quite important. One thing that we need to take note of. And then while the primary agricultural sector's direct contribution to GDP is around 3%, its overall impact considering the entire value chain is estimated at 12%. We are saying in GDP in actual sense it make a contribution of around 3%, but its overall impact considering the value chain as in terms of the total production processes, it also contributes approximately around 12%. The sector also provides substantial employment that we talked about. Agriculture provides substantial employment, particularly in rural areas, and is a major earner of foreign exchange through exports. So we are saying uh, the major earner of foreign exchange through exports. We have got quite a lot of agricultural produce that South Africa is selling to neighboring countries and international markets as well. So we want to look into direct contribution to GDP. The primary agricultural sector contributes approximately 3% to agriculture, to South African GDP. uh, the contribution can rise to about 12%, as I've mentioned already, when considering the broader agricultural value chain, including the processing, manufacturing, and distribution. So all these, we are saying the value chain is to say other uh, functions that are taking place in the processing, and also in the provisioning of products that are coming from agriculture. So the value chain would also increase the total contribution of South Africa because mostly, like we said, agriculture, it provides raw materials. The raw materials are supposed to be processed. There is manufacturing, and then there is distribution of all those. When we put together all these various facets and functions, they as well increase the vitality of agriculture as an industry in South Africa. In 2022, the value of primary agricultural production was around 419,765, while its contribution to GDP was estimated to this. So what happens is, in an exam class, you would see that there are questions that would come, which are graphical questions. So these graphical questions, basically what you need to do is you are actually working with information that is given there, is actually provided through graphs. So what you need to do is to interpret or to identify and work out various statistical figures that might be given there. And then in any other way, you would also want to relate to reasons why can we say, or what might have happened for a certain increase in agricultural production in certain years, and also what might have also caused the decline in agricultural production. factors such as those, you would also relate them scientifically, so based on some other reasons and factors. For example, we can talk about environmental factors that also impact on agriculture. We have got typical examples of years whereby we might have had floods. We might talk about also drought as one other reason that might have also caused a serious decline in agricultural production. We might also relate to other factors which also impact on agriculture, such as also the provision of labor that is also affected because of other diseases and illnesses impacting on our people. So employment, the contribution of agriculture in South African economy, it also accounts to roughly around 7% of formal employment in South Africa. It is a significant employer in rural areas and also providing livelihoods to many, for many people. Lives of people are improving and changing because of agriculture. So what I want us to understand is that employment, it is actually one of the important factors or one of the important contributions of agriculture in South Africa. We want to talk about foreign exchange earnings is also one other point. Agriculture is a major earner of foreign exchange through exports. Exports, we are talking about products that are being sold to to other countries. So these, we cannot forget them. We also need to understand that they are also there, those sectors. South Africa's agricultural exports reached a record of 13.7 billion last year, according to State of the Nation address or so forth. So what we are saying is we want to understand that we have got foreign exchange income that is earned from what? From various countries, which also contributes to our economy because of what? Because of international trade. Agricultural exports are diverse with significant trade to other African countries. We can talk about Asia, also the Middle East. We talk about the European Union and also America. These are also other countries which South Africa sells its products. So what I want us to understand is these are also quite important factors that we need to take note of. And then we should not forget. Ama na wasu watu wanataka noise Rama. Uh, Economic growth. Agriculture is crucial for ensuring good food security in South Africa, providing a stable supply of food for the population. So we talk about food security as to say access. It talks about access to food all the time is what we call healthy food, access to healthy food all the time. We talk about food security. So actually, it ensures that there is a stable, continuous supply, access. We are saying this when you talk about security, it means it is continuous, it is readily, it's readily available, and we are saying the population also lives a healthy life because of that availability of food. So that is quite important again. Economic growth, the sector's performance also is significantly impact on overall economic growth with a growth rate of 7.5% per year since then. So what we need to understand is that the total economic growth is 6.6%. You understand? Hey man, look at something that I'm trying to get a tongue and it's a sort of those. What are you crying? Ngidzoke futhi bro. Ngidzoke futhi. Ndokuphuthisa phuthisa nebhuti nemazingizwi izvozvo so. Ndokufarisa zvinonibatsarisa. So we also have challenges and future that we need to take note about. The challenges in future. What happens is that we also have the challenges that South African agricultural economy faces. And then what are those challenges? So having those challenges, we cannot just look at them and then we leave them. We look at those challenges and then what's the future about that? The South African agricultural sector faces challenges. These challenges such as what? Climate change, water scarcity, and access to finance for smallholder farmers. These are challenges that are very practical, that our agricultural sector, it suffers factors, it suffers production because of climate change. It's a very serious condition or it's a very serious experience that we have in South Africa. So what I want us to take note of is that water scarcity is also a challenge. Some of our crops, they need to be irrigated. So irrigation, it is sometimes not enough because of inadequate rainfalls. And then access to finance for smallholder farmers, it obviously becomes a challenge again to say small-scale farmers, they don't have access to finance because it is a challenge as a result of some reasons such as to say collateral security and also because of what is it, government support sometimes is not feasible enough to them because of the fear of the unknown, as in terms of these smallholder farmers. We also have modernization. Embracing technology and promoting sustainable farming practice are key to unlocking the sector's full potential and ensuring its long-term sustainability. So modernization, again, it becomes a challenge because some of the technological developments that are coming into play, our agricultural sector has not managed to yet provide and ensure that they are well done. So in that regard, access to those new technological systems is quite a challenge. And then businesses or farmers always have problems in that. So what needs to be understood is that we need to have promoting sustainable farming practices are key to unlocking the sector's full potential and also ensuring its long-term sustainability. That is to ensure that farming it does not stop, but it has to work on and facilitate the lives of people in generations to come. The government is working with the private sector to improve productivity and access to export markets as again the future. What you are saying, you are saying in terms of the future, what does the government have to do having these challenges? It is actually, we also have public-private partnerships where the government would also want to improve productivity by ensuring access to export markets by farmers and different what to call our different farmers or farmers in different levels of production. We want to look at types of farming. We want to look at types of farming. Types of farming. Small scale farming is characterized by what small scale farming. It is characterized by small land. We have got small scale farming, which is characterized by small land. We have got resources are also small, capital, often focusing on subsistence and some commercial sales. So what happens is that subsistence and small scale farming, they are more or less the same. So what happens is that in this level, at a small scale farming, the land sizes are usually very small. The resources are also very limited. There is also limited capital investment or injection into farming. And then we also have a small production or small surplus that is also used for what? that is used for sale. That is why we talk about also some commercial sales where large scale farming involves large extensive pieces of land. So when we are looking at that, we are saying this is one small scale farming, and then we also compare it to what large scale farming, which involves extensive land use, advanced technology. If you are going to compare the two, you shall see that there is extensive land use, advanced technologies is also used, and commercial production for profit. Production is actually done to make a substantive profit, to make substantive profit. That is meaning to say that there is quite a lot of profits that are to be made there. So what we are saying is that you need to understand the characteristics and the differences between the two. So South African agriculture is comprised of mainly two categories. That is subsistence farmers in the former homeland areas, the subsistence farmers in the former homeland areas, and also the commercial farmers, mainly the white farmers. So that is the basic classification that we can give with regard to South African agriculture. So small scale is often equated with backward or non-productive and non-commercial subsistence agriculture that we find in parts of former homelands. So what we are saying is that the small scale farming is actually rated and compared or classified as what is backward farming, which is non-productive. It is also non-commercial, meaning to say that it is for family use. Farming is actually for family. The production is actually for family use. Farmers are producing to feed their own families. That meaning to say subsistence and non-commercial. And then it is actually found in former homelands. Homelands is to say these are areas which were previously occupied by people, as just to say people were just as residential places, but now maybe they are converted into cities, or I mean they are converted into farms because people have moved into cities. So I have got typical examples or a photograph that I have shown here, which can illustrate, because certain times in an exam, you shall find out that you see question papers which are having photographs, and then identify the type of farming that is being illustrated and then give reasons for that. So we are saying this is small scale farming in South Africa. We are having a typical of small scale farming, small scale farming in South Africa. These are examples of small scale farming in South Africa. You understand? So from what I've already given you, all the characteristics small scale farming in South Africa, or what I've said, you can really relate. You think this is a farm implement. We have, I mean, we have an ox-drawn plow, an ox-drawn plow. We have got people who are also weeding on horse and so forth. You can see that the farming is not at a larger, it's not basically at a large scale. And the use of the tools that are used, the less mechanized, less machines. We are saying there is less mechanization. There's less mechanization, and also we are also talking about less sophisticated machines, sophisticated tools that are used there, two implements that are used here. Do you see what is happening? So you can see, e.g., the ox-drawn plow there, e.g., we have got the ox, we have the ox-drawn plow there, we have got the use of horse that we are seeing there. So all these are actually identities that can identify small scale farming. So what I'm saying is, at certain stages in your academic success, you might be finding yourself given photographs such as these ones, and then you are supposed to explain what type of farming is that, and give reasons for your answers, as you can see there. So I'm saying this is small scale farming, as you have seen the reason that we have shown there and the characteristics that we explained above there. So that's what you mean by what? By small scale farming. And then uh, we want to look into characteristics. These characteristics can also be used as identities or can be used to as justifications of those photographs. We are saying there's dual purpose, which means to say that we have got often serves both subsistence and commercial farming. From the photograph that I just showed you now, you can see that these farmers can produce uh, produce that is enough or yield that might be enough for both their families and also for selling. Hence, that is why you see it is defined as a dual purpose farming. And then it is labor intensive. The labor intensive is also classified or is actually justified by too many people who are working there. In a commercial farm, instead of too many people, we rely or they use, what do they use? They use machines. They use, herbicides and many other non-human means of production. So what we are saying is you can see that it is what? It is labor intensive, more on manual labor than technology. That is to say that it is what? It is small scale, low input cost, use less expensive technologies and inputs compared to large scale farming. That's what we are saying in terms of what? The type of what we call this small scale farmers or farming. We have got focus on local markets, may focus on local markets and informal markets. As these farmers are producing, what causes that is the size of their produce. Size of the produce is small. Size of the produce, size of the produce is small. So for that reason, the farmers are not able to sell to far to big markets. That is why you see that we say that they focus on what? They focus on they focus on small markets. They focus on local markets. And then small production scale produces less food compared to large scale farming. This is quite true. They produce what? Less food compared to large scale farmers, because large scale farmers are producing even to sell to international markets, because they need to sell into international markets. There is export production there. I mean, there's also production for export markets, and then vulnerable to climate change, more susceptible to climate impacts like drought and floods. As we can see, we are seeing issues to do with the drought. In terms of commercial farming, farmers have got mitigations or measures that they can put in place in order to avoid and to reduce the severity of drought into their or onto their farms. So small scale farming is vulnerable to what? It's very vulnerable to climate change because of such issues which we talked about also interlinked to inability to access finance or lack of finance to support what needs to be done. Challenges the challenge is we are saying limited access to markets, also financing, and also technology, as also has been mentioned as what as challenges that are affecting small scale farmers. So in terms of their potential, they play a crucial role in food security and livelihoods for rural communities. This can also say is the advantages. We can also give as advantages of what? Of small scale farmers. Small advantages of small scale farmers. That is what I'm saying. So what we need to understand is they do have challenges, and then their challenges also are to a certain extent also are assisted by the state or by the government. So we can also want to explain this in more detail, the challenges that faced by small scale farmers in South Africa. We said limited access to land because in rural areas, because we are saying particularly in rural areas because of they lack secure land tenure or have insufficient land for viable farming operations. Land tenure is to say there is no title deeds and so forth that entitle them to ownership of land. So land it remains a challenge. Inadequate infrastructure, poor roads are a challenge. Roads network, lack of access to electricity. We need electricity for many things, either for generation of power, for uh, pumping water. We need the electricity for continuous what you call farming production that must be done throughout the day 24/7. Also, we have got limited irrigation systems which also depend on electricity. They also depend on electricity. This. So what we are saying is irrigation systems hinder their ability to transport inputs, produce and access markets. So this is linked to inadequate infrastructure. Infrastructure, even in terms of their storage, the storage facilities of their produce is actually negatively impacted because of the poor infrastructure that we are referring to. Lack of access to finance, I guess this has been also mentioned. Difficulty in obtaining loans. We talked about this is because of the lack collateral security. Collateral security for them to access loans. For them to access loans, which is actually mentioned. So therefore, and also documentation, formal documentations limit their ability to invest in their farms. So what we are saying is formal documentations is to say the proper writing, the proper uh, system, what you call the proper information management systems that relates to businesses, informal or small businesses, small farmers, they don't have that. So collateral security is the assets which the farmers should produce when they want to take funds or they want to take finance for every other various business operations. Small scale farmers, they don't have that. So it remains a challenge for their businesses. Market access constraints, they often struggle to access markets because either of poor roads. We talked about some other barriers that are there, even also negotiation of fair prices for their produce and deal with competition from large commercial farmers. So market access, sometimes markets are monopolized because, are monopolized by large scale farmers or commercial farmers who tend to sell products or produce at less prices, which are just deterrent to small farmers and making it impossible for them to survive and compete. So access to market remain a challenge to them. And then climate change, we also talked about that, which we also talk about erratic rainfall and drought, extreme weather events, which negatively impact on crops. The weather we've heard of runoff fires, reducing crop yields and livestock production, food insecurity and financial losses. So you can see these small scale farmers, they can even close businesses because of uh, small challenges that they might face. Their production is small scale, and given that we are saying challenges that are environmental and so forth might result in them having problems. We also have soil degradation. Unsustainable farming practices have led to soil degradation, which is also reduced soil fertility and further impacting on yields. So soil degradation, we need to talk about massive soil erosion, massive soil erosion, which is caused uh, by poor farming practices. Caused by poor farming practices, they also result in soil degradation. We talk about stream bank cultivation, where farmers will farm on the river banks or downstreams. We talk about massive cutting down of trees, massive cutting down of trees. all these challenges that we cannot generalize, but they are quite realistic and practical to small scale farmers. We talk about monoculture. There are also still many other associated problems that we can talk about. Cultivation or growing of crops, one type of crop year in, year out, that tends to affect our lands. So let's look into lack of technology and information, limited access to modern farming technology, and then on the best practices hinders their ability to improve efficiency and productivity. I'm sure you can see skills gap, knowledge, shortage of skilled labor, and lack of access to training on modern farming techniques and business management skills also limit their potential. I'm sure you know that some of the farmers who are into small scale farmers, whom we call or we classify as small scale farmers, these are people who just started farming as a result of maybe uh, failure to enter into formal businesses and other established corporate organizations. So skills are not there. Quite a lot of people are entering and venturing into agriculture without having the necessary skills. So also we might also have to relate that to lack of training facilities that might be provisioned by the state or the government in terms of modern farming systems, and then even business management skills. They have got some serious challenges that they pose into their businesses, and then high input costs, the cost of buying, the rising cost of inputs, such as we talk about fertilizer, we talk about pesticides, fuel, coupled with the low market prices for their produce, create a challenging economic environment. So what we are saying is, naturally, the small scale farmers, they are entering into a business or into business or into an industry that is prohibitive because of entry cost. Like for instance, we are talking about the cost of fertilizers, pesticides, and also fuel. All these are inputs that are needed for production. So in that regard, when they produce after spending a lot, their produce is sold at less competitive prices, which at the end of the day, the economic profits are not economically healthy. They are just maybe saying break even margins, which they are only producing to cover back their cost of production with less uh, surplus of income or profit that they make. Hence, there is a challenge in that regard. Government support and challenges also: inadequate government support, including support for funding, inadequate government support, for instance, the bureaucratic hurdles, which we are saying the long chains, the red tape that is also there, the red tape that is also there in terms of access to government resources or government support, is to say that there's a lot of protocols that need to be observed in order for them to access uh, every support or other support services that they need to have or that they need to get from government. So we are saying they also have limited access to extension services, further compounds their difficulties. Extension services, for example, we can talk about agricultural extension workers who should work together with them, for instance, of outbreak of diseases in their livestock or in the on their farmlands regarding crops and stuff. Those people are not readily available, either because of the poor infrastructure that we talked about, and also the marginalization of small scale farmers, where they are practicing the space of farming is not enough for them to actually to be lucrative enough to attract extension workers and every other specialized services to uh, locate into their proximity. And then social factors, we talk about aging farming population. Most of the people who are in farms now, in small scale farmers, they are old people whom we can define as to say that they are not active enough to contribute in terms of the farming uh, expectations that are to be done in there. So young adults are moving to cities for white collar jobs and also the modern industries and modern lives that are there. We have got lack of social capital within communities and also limited access to healthcare, posing challenges to them. As you can see, small scale farmers sometimes they don't have like we mentioned up there, the issue of infrastructure, hospitals, we talk about schools, we talk about all those infrastructural demands are not readily available to them. In that respect, we would have problems when it comes to uh, the survival of small scale farmers in South Africa. Let's talk about large scale farming. Large scale farming involves extensive land holdings, as to say large pieces of land to commercial production, which we talk about, we're saying for sale to both national and international market. And international market. So commercial production and the use of advanced technologies and machinery. I'm sure this we cannot doubt about that. So I've got also nice examples here as to say commercial farming in South Africa, as we can see, extensive land holdings. This is commercial farming that is shown here. Commercial farming in South Africa. We are saying, e.g., we are talking about extensive land holdings. As you can see, in terms of, let me say photograph A, I can say this one A, or let me put A here and then B there. As you can see, we have got quite vast pieces of land that is under production. As you can see in photograph A there, there's vast pieces of land that is under production. And also, we have got also, when you look on the dairy farming, that dairy farming, there are too many cattle there, which are also using specialized. You see, these cows or these animals here, they are actually at a point of zero grazing somehow, where they are supplemented with feeds, where they are given surplus or feeding in their pens. All these are actually identifying a commercial farming practice. You see the shades that are there, there are nice housing or also maybe milking pens that are also shown on the graph there. So this is commercial farming in South Africa, which can also be given as to say identify the type of farming taking place and give reasons for your answer. The reasons are those as we have mentioned there. So commercial focus primarily aimed at maximizing profit through large-scale production. There is maximization of profit. Profit is the central point here. We talk about economic profit. Economic profit remains a main driving force. So we are talking about large scale production, which is taking place. Large scale production, it is actually shown here. As you can see, the piece of land that is under tea production, which you are seeing there, is quite big. And then if you can also check the farm, I mean the other picture, photograph B again, it's quite big, it's showing a lot of cattle there. So that is large scale production to increase and to make maximum profits that we are talking about. So we have got high capital investment in large scale farming, high capital investment, which requires significant financial resources for land. Obviously, the money is needed to support equipment, is needed to support the inputs. So capital investment, it actually, we can talk about the financing. That is very important in terms of what the financing factor, the financing factor of large scale farming, the financing factor. So now That's one other thing, technologically advanced. As you can talk about that, we are talking about utilize advanced machinery, irrigation systems, and other technologies. The irrigation systems, we have got the boom, we have got the boom irrigation system, we have got even the sprinkler, we have got other combined harvesters, we have got seed drills, we have got milking machines. All those are typical examples of advanced technologies that we might find also in terms of large scale farming. Specialized production often focuses on what? On monoculture, one crop, on a few specific or a few specific commodities. So there is no uh, quite diverse production taking place. Either the farmer can has to do maybe seed transplantation, or he or she has to do uh, any other small one type of crop for production that would run for some period of time. So there is specialized as to say particular production takes place. If it is a dairy farm, there is dairy farming. Dependence on external inputs, heavily on fertilizers, such as pesticides also, and other chemical inputs, which we can give as to say herbicides uh, for weed control. We are saying herbicides can also be used, chemicals, pesticides for killing of insects and so forth, fertilizers for actually increasing the output. There is also potential for economies of scale. These are benefits, advantages of business increases that the farmers enjoy, can achieve high yields and high yields and lower per unit cost due to large scale operations. So as the business increases, there are advantages that farmers can get. So economies of scale are just advantages, benefits that farmers are to experience and enjoy due to an increase in size of their businesses. That's what we are talking about in terms of economies of scale. And then challenges. What are the challenges that we can give in that regard? The challenges. What challenges can we talk about? Challenges, environmental impact depends on global markets. We are saying environmental impact. That one is all over. We can not talk. We can't earthquake. We can talk about drought. Sometimes we cannot talk about it. We cannot also ignore floods. We can also need to talk about dependence on global markets, as we have mentioned there. We are talking about international markets, and then potential for social inequalities. The social inequalities is to say that those who have can only be the ones who can access the commercial markets. Is not available, is not actually readily accessible or available to every person. So such problems remains in place. Main products produced Main products produced for home and export markets. South Africa's agricultural sector produces a wide range of products for both domestic and international markets, which we are saying the both domestic, we are talking about the local market, we are talking about the national, we are talking about the national, and then if we have got key exports include what is it that South Africa sells to other countries. We have got citrus, we have got the grapes, we have got the maize, we have got apples. I'm sure you see South Africa in Southern Africa actually. It is selling into Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and many other surrounding countries. They are buying fruit from South Africa, including even pears. South Africa is a good seller and producer of wine. So winery is also from South Africa. Even, of course, uh, we have nuts also. So identify products that are produced for export markets in South Africa. These are the typical examples that I've given here now to say that we have that one, we have that two, and then three, four. up to the next going forth like that. Other significant exports include sugar. I'm sure you know that we have got sugarcane production in South Africa, which is quite big here. We have got the berries. We have got the dates and pineapples, avocados. We have got wool, which is also being sold to other very cold regions and so forth. We have got apricots, peaches, ciders, and beef. So, in other ways, agriculture it is quite viable and is producing quite a lot in terms of uh, export products or export produce. Domestic market, we also basically talk about we actually basically need to understand the staple crops like maize. Domestic, we are talking about the South African market. We have got we have got the maize, we have got sugarcane also, which is in South Africa. We have got potatoes. I'm sure all of us we understand that our markets are flooded with the potatoes. So therefore, what we need to understand is that all these are examples of staple or local produce markets. Let's look at key products and markets which I already mentioned there. These are just further explained as to say, exporter South Africa, it exports citrus fruits, including oranges. We talk about grapes and mandarins. These are citrus that are sold to foreign markets. We talk about the grapes, both table grapes and wine grapes are significant export products again. Maize that we talk about also a staple food crop in South Africa, apples and pears. All these we have already mentioned them, which are going to many other national or many other surrounding countries. And then export destination. Let's look into export destinations. Where is South Africa selling? Uh, International markets uh, of South Africa. Which one do we have? We are talking about one African countries. These are a substantial portion of South African agricultural goes to other African nations that I've mentioned. We talked about the Southern African Custom Union, the SACU. We talk about the South African Development SADC community. These are Southern African development countries. We can mention all of them. There are quite a lot of countries that are in South African region. And then we also talk about Asia is also another market that South Africa sells to for agricultural products. We talk about Europe also, which is a major destination with United Kingdom also is another market there, being key market within Europe anyway. What we need to understand is that these are all still South African markets or destinations for its products. So we also have Europe, we have UK, we have got other markets is South Africa with other global countries, which can also play a very vital role in both the national economy and international trade. Is to say that remember that we said agriculture contributes immensely in terms of international trade, which we need to talk about the earnings that are obtained from export markets and also the major one in terms of the food security is another advantage that agriculture offers to our country as a whole. So I want you to understand that this is one of the easiest chapter or easiest unity that whenever you go to exams, you are able to answer and give practical examples and get the best marks on it. Thank you very much for following and watching Metrica Hub. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and also like. So therefore, turn on your notification button to keep on connected. Have a beautiful stay. Thank you very much. Let's meet again in the next video or in the next presentations, which are to come. Mining, we have got a lot of things coming there.
So let's look and go through all these together. We are going to talk about the food security. What is food security? Factors hindering food security in South Africa. They are coming in the next video. Just keep connected and have a beautiful stay. Have the best of what you are expecting, or the best in the upcoming exams. Good luck.